Welcome back to the Wikipedia world, and I am Abhinay Gupta. And today again, we will be continuing with the prevention of oppression and mismanagement. Right? So in the previous lecture, we have dealt in detail with the conditions of oppression. Right? There are 5 conditions over there, and we have also dealt with 5, 6 case studies so as to analyze it even better. Right? So all those things are done, and today we move on to the next section. And today we'll be talking about mismanagement. Right? So operation is already done and now mismanagement. Now what do you think is the basic difference between the two? Right? If you try and understand, right, if you analyze the entire thing, that then if there is any unwise or any insufficient management, right, that is done by the management of the company, do you think it is oppression of the minority? That means there was no false intention or anything, but it was just unwise of them to take some action. Right? It was their insufficient knowledge that led them to do something. That is not termed as operation. That will not be constituted under operation because operation is continuous. Operation is prejudicial to the interest of the public. Operation is harsh, burdensome. Right? That is intentional. Okay, but mismanagement is not always intentional. It can occur due to lack of knowledge, due to lack of understanding. Right? So mismanagement, as the word suggests, is mismanaged. Somebody who had been given the charge of management could not manage it appropriately, and hence there was an incident of mismanagement. So we will understand what mismanagement is in detail and then understand how to claim relief from mismanagement and other stuff as we had seen in the case of operation also. So claiming relief from mismanagement conditions. This is dealt by section 398 of the Companies Act 1956. Right? So when we talk about mismanagement, right, it has nowhere been defined in the Act. So if you go to section 2 of the Act to find for the definitions, you'll find no definition of mismanagement. Right? But it simply means an unfair abuse of the power by the person in charge of the management. Right? So who is in charge of the management? The board of the directors, the management, the entire set of management that has been created. Now that can be different with different companies. Right. So when we talk about management, so anybody who has the authority of the management of the company is in charge of management. So if they are inefficient to perform their duties, or if they try to unfairly abuse their power, then that is supposed to be mismanagement. In operation, if you remember, right, you were supposed to be oppressed as a member, and it was a minority that was oppressed by the majority. So basically that was something to do with the members, to do with the owners of the company. But mismanagement is something to do with the management of the company, right? And this is not anything intentional. This is something that would actually come up due to inefficiency, inadequate knowledge, and can also be, at times can also be a situation where the management is trying to abuse the power, but it is not the same as operation, and the situations and all are entirely different, right? So if we talk about mismanagement, it is dealt by section 398 of the Companies Act 1956. So suppose now there are members, right? The members are the owners of the company. So they are trying to take the company to certain direction, but the people who have the management rights of the company, they go on to perform something which is beyond their wish, or I would say something that overrides the wishes and the interest of the majority of the shareholders, right? And that gets the company into, finally leads to company paying heavily on that, maybe due to losses, maybe due to litigations, maybe due to missing out on opportunities, that is opportunity cost, maybe anything, right? But which is prejudicial to the interest of the company, right? So if we say that the management is performing inefficiently, the management is not doing its duty well, it is first prejudicial to the interest of the company, right? So now if we look into the provisions of section 398, there are 2 conditions. First case, the continuity of mismanagement is important. Like you remember in the case of oppression also, there had to be a continuity. So when the minority goes ahead to lodge a complaint against the majority, the operation should have continued, right? Or there had to be certain act that had been performed, but whose effect continues, right? Like in the case, when we went through the case studies, right? We saw a case where there were three brothers. Two of them increased their stakes from 33 to 45 and 45, and the third was left with just 10. That was although an act in isolation, but the effect continues. Right now, anytime in future, the third person will never have more than 10% say in the company. Right? So similarly, even mismanagement is something that has to be done in continuity. A single act of mismanagement will not attract section 398. Right? So first we have to see the conditions when we say it about when we talk about the continuity of mismanagement. So what are the two conditions? An application that you need to make to the CLB that yeah there has been some mismanagement in the company, right? Then that should be satisfied with two steps. Number one, that there should be a mismanagement in the company, and number two, that mismanagement should be continuous in nature. That means there must be certain continuity in that mismanagement, and when you are filing that petition or when you are complaining against it, that mismanagement should continue. It should exist, right? Now the point is, what do we mean by mismanagement? So mismanagement does not mean anything very unique or very different as the word says, right? Mismanagement is something when the affairs of the company are being conducted in a manner which is prejudicial to the public interest and which is prejudicial to the interest of the company as well, right? So in short, if you want to understand the word, just break it up, it is mismanagement. The management is being misled. The management is not being able to perform as they are supposed to be. You got the point? Right? So that is just the meaning of mismanagement. The conditions that it has to be there and it has to be continuity. Now third, now what is this continuity of mismanagement? See, where there is a wrong that is contemplated, right? Maybe it has been done by a past director and then that director had been removed from the company. So do you think there's a continuity in the mismanagement? No, that application will not be entertained because the director has already been removed. That means you have already resolved the problem. So if you have already resolved the problem, what are you coming to the CLB for? Are you getting the point? Right? So charges of mismanagement, even if proved in the past, are not enough to establish an existing injury to the company or public interest. Why? Because that has already happened in the past. If it is continuing to happen, we'll take charge. But if it has already happened and it is closed, it is not continuing forward, what is the point of appealing now? What do we do? Things are already right. Things had been wrong, I understand, but things are now already right. So what help do you want from the company law board? Right? Get to the crux of it. Why do you approach somebody? You are approaching somebody for help, not just to penalize somebody. So if you find that the company is not being managed well, you apply to CLB that listen, this is a mismanagement going on in the company, please help. Please find a solution. But when that mismanagement has already stopped, or when you have already removed that director who was involved in that mismanagement, your problem is solved, right? Your mismanagement is over. Now what has happened? Deal with that. Now you'll have to start thinking in that direction. Now there's no point going to CLB and asking the same thing, hey, help us out of mismanagement. You're not fools, right? You're already out of mismanagement. Right? So these are some things that you need to understand. Right? Now the second case is apprehended mismanagement. Right? That is extended mismanagement. Now this is when you understand that there is some material change that is going to happen, right? Where you know that okay, there is some material change, or that due to that material change in the management or control of the company, it is likely, understand, it is likely that the affairs of the company will be conducted in a manner which is prejudicial to both public interest as well as the company interest. That means it is not actual as of now, but that is something we believe, that yes, if we continue it this way, or if this management is going to change, and after changing, if this is the management that it's going to look like, then we are scared that there is a likability of the company being mismanaged. Right? Now, when we talk about this material change, right, what is this material change? What do you mean by material change? So for the purpose of this particular section, right, so material change can be have different meaning at different places, right? So when we are discussing about material change here, we're only concerned about section 398. So for the purpose of this section 398, material change in the management or control will be deemed to have taken place if there is an alteration in a number of things. Now, what are they? Number one, if there is an alteration in the company's board of directors, right? So, a board of directors consisted of n number of directors. Now, there's a material change. You remove 2-3 directors and replace them with new directors, and something like that goes on. So, there is an alteration in the board of directors, right? Or if you see that there's a manager of the company who changes. Now, if you remember when we were doing the appointment of the managerial personnel, right? Who is a manager? Manager is not, if you guys go to the CA firm, right? Over there, it's a firm, it's not a company. So management is one of the lowest level of the hierarchy, right? So, but when we talk about manager, we'll refer back to the chapter that we had done in the previous lectures, that is appointment of managerial person, where you saw that there's only one manager that can be appointed in a company. And if the company has a manager, the company will not have a MD, managing director. Company will have a number of full-time directors, agreed. But if you have a manager, you'll not have an MD. And if you have a manager, you'll not have another manager. Why? Because manager takes charge of the entire action of the company. Right? They're vested with that power. So if the manager changes, that means understand the major authority of the management is going to change. That is material. Right? Now the ownership of companies share change. Now over here, do you think the ownership is anywhere related to management? On the face of it, no. But if the ownership changes completely, they may go ahead to change the management as well. And if they change the management, there's a material change in the management, and hence it is likely to be prejudicial. Right? Next, if the membership of the company, there's an alteration in the membership of the company, if the company has no share capital. That means over here, we are not talking about the ownership changing. So I had the membership of the company. Now my membership changes. Right? My membership of the company changes. So if my membership changes, then my say will also be altered. Right? The company membership is changing, then the members are changing, and then the say and the entire deal is going to be altered because there are new people and new proportions of management members. So according to their proportion, the powers will just fluctuate, and with that, even the management will also fluctuate, and with that, we could lead to something which is prejudicial. Right? It can be in any other manner whatsoever. If there is in any other manner, if you see the management changing, it is also a material change. But it will not include a change that is brought about by or in interest of any creditor, debenture holder, or any class of shareholders. Right? So, do you understand what is the material change, what is mismanagement, what is continuity of mismanagement, what is the likability, and what is actual? What has happened. Please, let's not get into it again. All those things. Right? Now, before we go ahead to the case studies or to the rest of the chapter, there are some more things that I need to discuss in this section 398. Right? Now, there's a topic about eligibility. We talked about, okay, if there is this, then we'll make some application to CLB and stuff. Now, what is the eligibility? Now, basically, the eligibility will actually be covered in the next section. Right? When we'll be talking about section 397 and 398 eligibility in section 399. So 397 was operation, 398 is mismanagement, and the eligibility for making that application in both the case will be dealt with in section 399. So we will be taking that up in the next section. But all we need to understand that an application under 398 can be made only by the members of the company if they meet the eligibility requirement which has been prescribed in 399. So I have already given you the brief of that eligibility requirement in 397 when we are doing. In case of share capital, 100 members or 1/10 or those things, you remember? In case of no share capital, 1/5 of the members. You're getting an idea of it, right? So this thing will be covered in detail when we are doing section 399. Hold your horses, we'll get back to that. Right? Second, orders by company law board. An application, where does it go? It goes to company law board complaining that, yeah, there is a mismanagement in the company. So if the company law board gets satisfied, whatever conditions have been prescribed in 398, all those conditions are satisfied. then it may take necessary order. It may make necessary orders for ending the matter that you have approached for or you have complained of. And for that, the company law board has been vested with enough power, with a wide range of power. And those powers are listed under various sections 402, 403, 404, and 407. And that will again be dealing in the section or in the lecture when we are covering those sections. Right? So eligibility of making application in section 399 and the powers of CLB in section 402, 3, 4, and 7. Now, there are certain legal decisions also that has been taken in the past, right, which are a sure thing of mismanagement. So let us take those up as examples. So if I talk about legal decisions, right, so there are just two-liner decisions that we'll be considering about. Rajamandri Electric Supply Corporation versus Nageshwara Rao. What happened in that case is where the vice chairman grossly mismanaged the affairs of the company. What he did was when he mismanaged as he was a vice president, he could, right? He had the power. What he did was he withdrew a lot of considerable amount of money into his own personal account. He withdrew that for his personal purpose. That the large amount were owing to the government towards charge of electricity that could not be paid by the company. It was owing towards government. Right? And even the machinery that they bought were into the state of despair. So understand, the company was already running short of funds. Instead of paying off the electricity bill to the government, instead of maintaining the machineries and all stuff, the vice president or the vice chairman of that company, what he did is he misappropriated the fund into his own personal use. And that was gross negligence. That was not negligence. That was he was guilty, right? He mismanaged the company. He mismanaged and he misused his power at that position. Right? Do you understand that? There's another case of Malayalam Plantation India Limited, 1991. Right? Over there, what happened that the assets of the company were sold without complying with the requirement of Section 293, which is now Section 180 of the Companies Act. Right? So before selling those assets, these sections have to be taken care of. We'll not be getting into the detail of this section because we will be dealing them in their appropriate places. Right? So maybe an asset was worth 1 CR, was sold at 20 lakhs or something. Means to say they sold it at a very lower price, right? And then it was held that was a case of mismanagement, that you should have actually seen the value, you would have got the assets revalued and seen the market price and whatever, or the last deal, if you want to get to the fair market value, right? There are a lot of procedures that could be followed to arrive at the fair market value, and that was not done and was sold at a value which was far below the market value. There was another case of SM Ramkrishna Rao versus Bangalore Race Club Limited. So over there what happened, there was a violation in the conditions of the memorandum. The person who was in charge of the management and affairs of the company. Hence it amounted to mismanagement. So if there is something written in the memorandum, you are supposed to follow it. If you do not follow it, it would result into mismanagement. There was another case of Suresh Kumar Sangi with his Supreme Motor Limited. So there what happened, there was a serious dispute among the directors which resulted into serious prejudice to the interest of the company, and that amounted to mismanagement. I mean, there were 2-3 directors and there was serious dispute among the same. So if one director wanted to do something, the other tried to cross it. When the other wanted to do something, the first one wanted to cross it, and hence the company suffered a lot because of the internal dispute into the management, right? So this is about mismanagement. These are some of the examples. Now, one thing you need to keep clear, that when we're talking about mismanagement, there are just two conditions. One, it is mismanaged. Two, there is continuity, right? Unlike operation where there were 5 conditions, that okay, it was oppressive, it has to be very heavy on the thing, and a lot of things were there. Then they talked about member being the only one who would complain. There has to be continuity, which is common with this. Then there was another condition of winding up. That has to be serious enough to wind up the company, but company could not be wound up. Why? Because that would be prejudicial to the interest of the applicant, right? So last 3 conditions have been squashed over here. When we talk about mismanagement, right, it is not required to satisfy the company law board that it was very serious that the company should be wound up. No. Yes, in the case of operation, that is a very important element to be judged. But in case of a mismanagement, that is not required at all. Right? Just proof of prejudice to the public interest or the interest of the company is enough. Just prove it. That if this goes, public interest is compromised or the company's interest is compromised, and you are good to go with it. Right? Are you clear with the mismanagement stuff? This is simpler than your operation, right? Because we took a great deal of understanding in operation, and hence mismanagement has proved to be very small and very minuscule for you. Right? But again, yeah, we'll not leave mismanagement over here. Before hopping up to the next section, that is 399, we will also consider and discuss the case studies relating to section 398. Right? So 3-4 case studies we'll discuss in the next lecture and then move on to section 399 and then the other sections. Right? We'll be quick in completing this chapter as well. And then we'll move on to the next and next and next and wind up the syllabus and bang you ready for the exam. Okay for that? So that's all for the day. I'll see you guys back in the next lecture. Until then, this is Abhinay Gupta signing off. Thank you and bye-bye.